In every corner of modern life, a quiet struggle is unfolding. People lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering why their minds refuse to rest. Their hearts race with worries about bills, deadlines, fractured relationships, and the haunting question of whether they are truly enough. In the silence of dark rooms across the world, millions of men and women wrestle with the same invisible weight: stress, anxiety, loneliness, the constant pressure to perform. The glow of a phone screen becomes both a comfort and a trap, as endless scrolling promises distraction, but delivers only deeper emptiness. Perhaps you know this feeling too. The world has never been more connected, and yet so many feel profoundly alone. We live in an age of abundance, yet we often feel starved of meaning. Every advertisement tells us that happiness is just one more purchase away, one more promotion, one more achievement. And still, after reaching those milestones, the hunger returns. The cycle repeats, leaving us restless and unsatisfied. The more we chase, the more exhausted we become. And beneath it all, a simple truth whispers: the harder we hold on, the more we suffer. This is not weakness. It is the human condition. It is the shared pain of modern existence, where our outer lives appear full, but our inner lives are fragile, trembling like a candle in the wind. But what if there is another way? What if the key to peace is not found in the next achievement, the next possession, or the next relationship, but in the quiet wisdom that has guided countless generations for over 2,000 years? The teachings of the Buddha were not meant only for monks in temples or seekers on mountaintops. They were meant for you, for me, for anyone searching for a way out of suffering. At their heart lies a truth so simple, so clear, that it cuts through the noise of modern life. We suffer because we cling. We cling to control, to identity, to possessions, to expectations. And yet, when we learn the art of letting go, a new world opens, a world of calm, clarity, and compassion. Imagine waking up in the morning without the familiar knot of anxiety in your chest. Imagine walking into your day without the burden of fear or the endless hunger for more. Imagine a peace so steady that even in chaos, you feel grounded, alive, free. This is not a dream. This is a path. And tonight, as you listen to these words, you are invited to walk it. Not through blind belief, but through lived experience. Not through escape, but through courage. The courage to face your pain, to understand it, and to release it. You do not need to renounce the world. You do not need to withdraw from your responsibilities. What you need is to bring wisdom into your everyday life, into your stress, your money worries, your fragile relationships, your restless mind. The ancient path is not about rejecting life, but about learning how to meet life as it truly is. This journey is not quick, and it is not easy. But step by step, breath by breath, you will discover a freedom that cannot be shaken. A freedom born not from control, but from surrender. A freedom born not from gaining more, but from letting go. Together, we will explore the deepest pains of modern life: stress, money, relationships, anxiety, grief, and more, and find in each one a doorway to liberation. Each story, each teaching, each practice is like a lantern in the dark, guiding you home to yourself. And as you listen, you may find that the very struggles that once weighed you down become the very soil from which peace blossoms. Tonight is not just about listening. It is about remembering. Remembering that within you is already the calm, the strength, and the compassion you have been searching for. There is a moment many of us know all too well. The alarm clock rings, the morning sun pours through the curtains, and yet the body feels heavy, the mind already burdened. Before a single step is taken, the day has begun with pressure. There are bills waiting on the kitchen table, emails demanding answers, children asking for attention, and a mind that cannot stop replaying yesterday's failures while predicting tomorrow's disasters. This is not living, it feels more like surviving. And survival, day after day, drains the very joy from existence. Stress has become the invisible soundtrack of modern life, a relentless hum that grows louder the more we try to silence it. No pill, no drink, no distraction seems to quiet the noise for long. Stress is no longer just an occasional visitor. For many, it has become a permanent resident. It shows up as the clenched jaw, the shallow breath, the sleepless night, the sudden burst of anger at the people we love most. It creeps into our relationships, into our work, into our health. Doctors say that stress fuels countless illnesses, but beyond the statistics lies something more intimate, the way it steals our presence. Instead of enjoying dinner with family, we chew quickly, half listening, half thinking about unfinished tasks. Instead of watching the sunset, we scroll through endless feeds, unable to settle. Even our rest is restless, as dreams become extensions of our daytime worries. But why is stress so powerful? Why does it cling to us with such ferocity? Part of the answer lies in the culture we live in. We are taught that our worth depends on our productivity, our appearance, our bank balance, the opinions of others. Every advertisement whispers that we are not enough, not yet, not until we buy more, achieve more, prove more. This constant chase creates an endless loop. The more we run after approval, the more anxious we become. The more anxious we are, the more desperately we cling to control. And when control inevitably slips through our fingers, we panic, believing that failure defines us. Imagine a tightrope walker high above the ground. Every step is tense, every movement filled with fear of falling. This is how many live their lives, always balancing, always afraid, never breathing deeply, never feeling free. Stress is not simply about tasks. It is about the story we tell ourselves. If I don't succeed, I am worthless. If I fail, I will lose everything. If I am not in control, I will be destroyed. This story becomes the prison in which we live. And yet, the prison has no real walls. It is built from thoughts, fears, illusions. The Buddha, more than 2,000 years ago, observed the same suffering in the hearts of men and women. Though they did not carry smartphones or mortgage payments, their minds were no less restless. He described this state as dukkha, the underlying unease of existence. Dukkha is not just pain. It is the subtle dissatisfaction that nothing lasts, that everything shifts, that even joy carries within it the seed of loss. To live is to feel this tension, but to awaken is to learn a different way of relating to it. The first step is awareness. Often, we do not even realize how stressed we are until the body collapses with illness or the heart erupts in anger. Awareness means pausing, noticing the racing heartbeat, the shallow breath, the restless thoughts. It means whispering to ourselves, I am suffering right now. This simple recognition opens a small window. It allows us to step back from the storm and see it for what it is, a pattern, not an identity. Stress is something happening in us, not who we are. Consider a glass of muddy water. If shaken, it remains cloudy. But if left still, the dirt slowly sinks and the water clears. Our minds are like that. Stress stirs the mud, keeping everything turbulent. But with stillness, with mindfulness, the clarity returns. Breathing deeply, sitting quietly, paying attention to the body and mind, we begin to settle. The problems of life do not vanish, but our relationship with them transforms. Instead of being consumed by fear, we create space around it. Instead of being dragged by thought, we observe thought. The Buddha taught the practice of mindful breathing as a gateway to peace. Inhale, aware that you are inhaling. Exhale, aware that you are exhaling. Such a simple act, and yet profoundly healing. It returns us to the present, the only place where life truly happens. Stress thrives in the past rehashing mistakes or in the future imagining disasters. But in the present moment, most of the time, we are safe. Our heart beats, our lungs fill, the ground supports us. To rest here is to taste freedom. Let us imagine a woman sitting at her desk late at night. Papers are scattered, deadlines loom, and her chest feels tight. Her mind screams, "I can't handle this." In that moment, she remembers to pause. She places a hand on her heart, takes a slow breath, feels the chair beneath her. She whispers, "This is stress. I see you. I breathe with you." In that small pause, something shifts. The work is still there. The deadlines remain, but her panic loosens. She remembers she is more than this moment, more than this task. With each breath, she reconnects to a deeper stillness. And from that stillness, she finds the strength to continue, not as a prisoner, but as a free being. This is the gift of Buddhist wisdom. It does not erase life's challenges. It teaches us how to meet them with presence. Stress loses its power when we stop fighting it and start seeing it clearly. The storm may rage, but within us, a calm center is always available. This center is found not by clinging, but by letting go of the need to control every outcome, letting go of the story that our worth depends on perfection, letting go of the endless chase. The more we practice letting go, the lighter we become. It is like putting down a heavy backpack we forgot we were carrying. Suddenly, the world feels spacious again. Colors appear brighter. Conversations become deeper. Even simple acts, like drinking tea or walking in the park, feel like blessings. We discover that peace is not in the future. It is here now, waiting for us to notice. And yet, the journey does not stop here. Stress is only the first doorway. Beyond it lie other challenges that plague modern life, our struggles with money, our fragile relationships, our restless search for identity. Each of these, too, holds within it the seed of awakening. But to reach them, we must first understand the illusion that fuels so much of our suffering. The illusion of control. So often, when people speak of stress, they describe it as if it were a storm outside of them. Work is stressful. My family stresses me out. The world is stressful. But if we look closely, the storm is not only outside, it is inside. The outside events may trigger it, but the waves rise within the mind and heart. This is why even two people in the same situation can react so differently. One may panic while the other stays calm. The difference is not the storm itself, but how we meet it. When we cling to the illusion of control, stress intensifies. We believe that if we can just arrange everything perfectly, every task, every person, every detail, then finally we will relax. But life is never so obedient. The phone rings at the wrong time, the car breaks down, the child gets sick, the boss changes plans. No matter how carefully we plan, the unexpected appears. And each time it does, we feel attacked, as if life has betrayed us. In truth, it is not betrayal, it is simply life. The more we demand that it follow our script, the more disappointed we become. Imagine holding a rope tied to a wild horse. The tighter you grip, the more it pulls, the more your hands burn. Eventually, you are dragged through the dirt, exhausted, wounded. This is what happens when we cling to control. The harder we hold on, the more we are dragged. The Buddha's wisdom offers a different image. Let go of the rope. The horse may run, but you are free. In letting go, we do not abandon responsibility. We abandon the impossible expectation that everything must bend to our will. This realization is not defeat. It is liberation. True strength is not found in controlling life, but in flowing with it. When we let go, we discover an inner spaciousness, a breathing room we forgot existed. And from that space, new possibilities emerge. We act not from fear, but from clarity. Decisions are no longer desperate grasps at control, but thoughtful steps aligned with reality. Consider a young man named David. He works in finance, chasing deadlines and numbers that never end. His mind is a constant whirlwind. What if I fail? What if I lose my job? What if I disappoint my parents? One day, his stress explodes into a panic attack. In the hospital, doctors tell him his heart is fine. It is his mind that is racing. A friend introduces him to mindfulness meditation. At first, David resists. Sitting quietly feels impossible. His thoughts scream louder than ever. But over time, something shifts. He learns not to fight his thoughts, but to watch them, like clouds passing across the sky. He learns to breathe deeply, to rest in the present. Slowly, the panic loosens. The numbers at work do not vanish, but he no longer treats them as life or death. He discovers a peace he never thought possible, not because life has become easy, but because he has learned how to meet it. This story is not unique. Thousands of people across the world are discovering the same truth. Stress does not control us. Our relationship to stress controls us. And by practicing awareness, acceptance, and letting go, we transform the storm into a teacher. Each wave becomes an invitation to return to the present, to breathe, to remember that life is more than our fears. There is a saying, "You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom. We cannot stop life from changing. We cannot stop challenges from arriving, but we can learn to ride them with grace. Surfing requires balance, patience, practice. So does life. And just as surfers fall many times before they ride smoothly, we too will stumble. But each stumble is part of the learning. Each moment of awareness brings us closer to freedom. Stress, in this way, becomes a doorway rather than a wall. It points us toward the deeper roots of suffering, the illusion that we can control everything, the fear that we are not enough, the belief that peace lies in the future rather than the present. By facing stress directly, we begin to loosen these roots. And as they loosen, we prepare ourselves for the next step in the journey. For stress is only the beginning. Beyond it lies a deeper hunger, the endless pursuit of money, success, and security. Many believe that if they can just earn more, save more, build more, then stress will finally disappear. Yet often, the opposite happens. The more money we chase, the more anxious we feel. The more we achieve, the more restless we become. This is the next doorway we must walk through together. As we close this first chapter, let us pause. Place a hand on your heart. Breathe deeply. Whisper to yourself, "I do not need to control everything. I can let go." Feel the weight lifting, even if only a little. Know that each breath is a new beginning, each moment a chance to choose peace. You are not alone in this journey. Millions walk beside you, and countless have walked before you. The wisdom that freed them is here for you too. And as we step forward, we will explore the deeper chains that bind us, the chains of money, of fear of scarcity, of the endless chase for more. Just as we have seen how stress can be transformed, we will see how our relationship with wealth and security can either imprison us or liberate us. The next chapter invites us to face this challenge with open eyes and open hearts, discovering once again that the way out is not found in clinging, but in letting go. Money. Few words carry as much power in the modern world. It pays the rent, fills the fridge, provides comfort, and promises safety. Yet money is never just paper or numbers on a screen. It is the symbol of security, the measure of success, the silent judge of worth. From an early age, we are taught to chase it, guard it, fear its absence. And so, money becomes more than a tool. It becomes a master. Consider the man who works long hours, sacrificing health and time with family, telling himself, "Just a little more." and then I'll rest. But the little more never ends. Each promotion, each bonus, each raise feels good for a moment, then quickly dissolves into the same hunger. Or think of the young woman who lies awake at night, scrolling through online stores, convincing herself that one more purchase will ease the emptiness inside. The package arrives, the thrill fades, the cycle begins again. Money whispers, "I will complete you," but the promise never holds. This is the pain of modern life. Money has become the currency, not only of survival, but of self-worth. Without enough, we feel anxious, ashamed, invisible. With abundance, we fear losing it, or we discover that it cannot fill the emptiness after all. Either way, we remain trapped. The mind tells us, if I earn more, I will finally be safe. If I save more, I will finally be free. Yet like a mirage in the desert, the oasis vanishes each time we approach. Why does money hold such power over us? Because deep inside, we fear impermanence. We know that life is fragile, uncertain. Illness, accident, disaster any moment can change everything. And so we cling to money as a shield, believing it will protect us. But no amount can stop death. No amount can prevent loss. No amount can guarantee love or peace. Money buys comfort, but not freedom. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering. Money itself is not evil. It is neutral, a tool. But when we cling, when we make money our identity, our God, our proof of value, it becomes a source of endless anxiety. To cling to money is like clinging to water with clenched fists. The tighter we grasp, the faster it slips away. Let us imagine a father named Michael. He grew up poor, vowing never to feel that shame again. Through relentless work, he built a career, bought a house, saved a fortune. Outwardly, he was a success, but inwardly, he was haunted. He feared every downturn in the stock market, every unexpected bill, every possible loss. His family longed for his presence, but he was always at work, always planning, always worried. One day, his daughter asked softly, "Daddy, why are you always gone?" "We don't need more toys. We need you." In that moment, he realized his prison was not poverty, but fear. The bars were built not from lack of money, but from clinging to it. This is not to deny the reality of financial struggle. Bills must be paid, children must be fed. But beyond the basics, more money does not equal more peace. The endless chase only deepens the wound. What heals is a shift in perspective. Instead of seeing money as the source of safety, we learn to see wisdom, compassion, and presence as the true wealth. Instead of clinging, we practice balance. The Buddha often spoke of right livelihood. This means earning money in a way that does not harm ourselves or others, and using it as a support for a wholesome life. Money is not the enemy, but it is not the savior either. It is a servant, not a master. When used wisely, it sustains. When worshipped, it enslaves. Imagine again that same father, Michael, after his awakening moment. He begins to cut back his hours, choosing time with family over endless overtime. He learns to sit quietly each evening, noticing his breath, letting his fear of loss soften. Slowly, he discovers that peace does not come from the size of his bank account, but from the depth of his presence. His children laugh more, his wife smiles more, his own heart feels lighter. The money is still there, but it is no longer the center of his universe. There is a powerful metaphor in Buddhist teaching. Holding money should be like holding water in an open palm. You support it gently, you use it wisely, but you do not clutch it in fear. In this way, money flows in and out of life naturally, without enslaving you. The open hand symbolizes trust that you will be provided for. Trust that life supports those who live with compassion and awareness. Trust that your value is not measured by possessions. This is not blind faith. It is the lived experience of countless people who have discovered that generosity, not greed, creates joy. Giving freely to others, whether through money, time, or kindness, loosens the chains of attachment. It shifts the heart from scarcity to abundance. Instead of asking, "How can I protect what is mine?" we begin to ask, "How can I share what I have?" And in that shift, fear dissolves. The paradox is clear. When we cling, we feel poor, no matter how much we own. When we let go, we feel rich, even with little. Think of a monk with only a robe and a bowl. To the outside world, he appears poor, yet his eyes shine with peace. His smile radiates freedom. He has no bank account, yet he carries an inner wealth that no thief can steal, no market can crash. This wealth is born of letting go, of releasing the illusion that money can provide ultimate safety. And so, as we face the reality of money in our own lives, we are invited to reflect. Are we using money, or is money using us? Do we serve it, or does it serve us? The answers shape not only our bank accounts, but our heart's dot as we breathe into these questions. A new understanding begins to grow. We see that money is not the final answer. It is a mirror, showing us our fears and our clinging. And as we loosen our grip, as we learn to balance responsibility with freedom, we discover a peace that no paycheck can buy. This peace prepares us for the next challenge of modern life, relationships. For while money may stir our fears, it is in relationships that our deepest joys and deepest wounds appear. Just as we cling to wealth, we cling to people, to love, to expectations of how others should treat us. And just as clinging to money brings suffering, so does clinging to relationships. The next chapter invites us to open our hearts, to explore the fragile dance of love, and to discover how Buddhist wisdom transforms even heartbreak into a doorway to freedom. For many, the pursuit of money feels like the pursuit of safety. If only the account is full, if only the debts are paid, if only the investments are strong, then the heart will finally rest. But the truth is harsh. No amount ever feels like enough. Studies show that people across income levels tend to say they need just a little more to feel secure. The millionaire wants 2 million. The billionaire wants 10. The finish line keeps moving because the hunger is not for money itself. It is for control in an uncontrollable world. This is why money anxiety strikes both the poor and the wealthy. The one who struggles to pay rent fears survival. The one with millions fears loss. The mind whispers the same thought. What if it all disappears? That whisper keeps us restless, always scanning, always planning, always worried. Yet when we pause and reflect, we realize the whisper has no end. Even if every bill is paid, the mind invents new fears. Even if riches abound, the heart still aches. The real poverty is not in the bank, it is in the spirit that clings. Buddhist wisdom teaches that security cannot be found in what is impermanent. And money, like all things, is impermanent. Markets rise and fall, jobs come and go, fortunes are made and lost. To build identity on money is to build a house on sand. The waves will come, the storms will rise, and sooner or later, the foundation will shake. But if we ground our identity not in wealth, but in awareness, compassion, and wisdom, then even when the storm rages, we remain steady. Consider the parable of the 2 merchants. One spends his life hoarding gold, locking it away in vaults, counting it again and again. Yet he never enjoys his riches, for fear keeps him awake at night. The other uses his wealth to care for his family, to support his community, to cultivate generosity. He too faces loss when a flood destroys his land. But unlike the first, he does not collapse. For his true wealth was never in the gold itself. It was in the love and connection he nurtured. His joy was built on what cannot be washed away. This is the invitation of the Dharma, to see money for what it truly is. Not salvation, not identity, not permanent, merely a tool. And like any tool, its value lies in how it is used. In wise hands, money can feed the hungry, heal the sick, educate the child. In fearful hands, money becomes a chain, heavy and cold, binding us to endless craving. Let us look again at our own lives. How much of our time is spent thinking about money? How much energy is consumed by the fear of losing it or the desire to gain more? What if even a fraction of that energy were turned toward kindness, mindfulness, or creativity? What if the hours spent worrying about numbers on a screen were instead spent in presence with loved ones, in service to others, in deep rest? Would our lives not feel richer, even if our bank accounts did not? There is a practice the Buddha encouraged, dana, or generosity. To give freely, without expecting return, is to train the heart in letting go. Start small. Share a meal with someone in need. Donate a portion of income. Offer your time to help a neighbor. Each act loosens the grip of fear. Each act teaches the mind that security is not in what we hold, but in what we release. And generosity is not only outward. We must also practice generosity toward ourselves. So many live trapped in shame about money, ashamed of debt, ashamed of not having enough, ashamed even when they have plenty. To hold ourselves with compassion, to forgive past mistakes, to release the endless comparison to others, this too is generosity. It is the generosity of self-kindness, a gift we desperately need. Imagine again, Michael, the father who once sacrificed everything for financial security. With time, he learned to practice generosity. He began volunteering at a shelter, sharing not just money but his presence. He found joy in helping others, joy that no paycheck had ever given him. Slowly, the fear loosened. He no longer measured his life by his net worth, but by his heart's worth. And in that shift, he found what he had been chasing all along: peace. This does not mean abandoning responsibility. The bills remain, the work continues, but the energy changes. Instead of acting from fear, we act from clarity. Instead of hoarding, we balance. Instead of clinging, we flow. The same money can enslave one person, can free another. The difference is not the number, but the relationship. When we release the illusion that money will provide ultimate safety, we open ourselves to a deeper truth. Real wealth is in the mind that knows peace, in the heart that loves freely, in the spirit that trusts life's flow. No thief can steal this wealth. No market can crush it. No loss can erase it. It is the wealth of awareness, the wealth of compassion, the wealth of letting go. And so we arrive at a turning point. We have explored the stress that consumes us. We have seen how money, when clung to, becomes another chain. Yet there is another arena where clinging causes even greater suffering: our relationships. For money may touch our fears, but relationships touch our hearts. We long for love, for connection, for belonging. And yet, in that longing, we often grasp too tightly, expecting others to complete us, to behave as we wish, to never leave us. This grasping leads to disappointment, conflict, heartbreak. Just as we must learn to hold money with an open hand, we must learn to hold people with an open heart. In the next chapter, we will walk into this tender ground together. We will explore the beauty and the pain of relationships, and we will discover how the wisdom of compassion and non-attachment can transform even heartbreak into a path of freedom. Love is one of the greatest desires of the human heart. From the moment we are born, we long to be held, to be seen, to be understood. As children, we cry for our parents. As adults, we search for partners, for friends, for belonging. Relationships promise warmth, comfort, connection. They promise to end loneliness. And for brief moments, they do. The smile of a partner, the laughter of a friend, the touch of a hand, these moments feel like home. But with that joy comes fragility. Because when we cling to people, when we demand that they never change, never leave, never disappoint, we set ourselves up for pain. In modern life, relationships carry enormous weight. Romantic love is idolized in movies, songs, and advertisements. We are told that we are incomplete until we find the one. Marriage, family, even friendships become measures of success. If we have them, we feel validated. If we lose them, we feel broken. And yet, even when we have them, we fear losing them. This fear seeps into our words, our actions. We become jealous, controlling, insecure. Instead of love blossoming freely, it becomes tangled with attachment. Asterisk attachment is not the same as love. Love is open, generous, compassionate. Attachment is grasping, demanding, fearful. When we confuse the two, relationships become prisons. We say, "I love you," but what we mean is, "I need you to behave the way I want, or else I will suffer." We expect others to heal our wounds, fill our emptiness, guarantee our happiness. But no one can carry such weight. No one can be the permanent source of our joy. And so, disappointment is inevitable. Think of Sarah, a woman deeply in love with her partner. At first, the relationship was blissful. They laughed together, dreamed together, shared everything. But as time went on, Sarah's fear of losing him grew. She checked his phone when he wasn't looking. She worried each time he was late. She demanded constant reassurance. "Do you still love me? Will you always stay?" Her partner, feeling suffocated, began to withdraw. The more he withdrew, the tighter she clung. The love that once brought joy became a battlefield of fear. Eventually, the relationship ended, leaving Sarah devastated. She told herself she had loved deeply. But in truth, much of what she felt was attachment, an attempt to control what could never be controlled. This is a common story. How often do we see couples fighting not because of lack of love, but because of fear of abandonment, fear of change, fear of impermanence? How often do friendships break down because one person expects too much, demands too much, clings too much? The root of the pain is always the same. We want relationships to be permanent in a world that is impermanent. We want people to fit our image of who they should be, instead of allowing them to be who they are. The Buddha taught that clinging is suffering, whether to money, to identity, or to people. This does not mean we should not love. Quite the opposite. It means we should love without chains. True love is spacious. It says, "I want you to be happy, even if your path does not always align with mine." True love trusts rather than controls. True love embraces change rather than resists it. Imagine holding a bird in your hand. If you grip too tightly, you crush it. If you open your hand, it may fly away or it may stay, resting gently. This is how love should be. The beauty of the bird is in its freedom, not in your control. In the same way, the beauty of relationships is in allowing others to grow, to change, to be themselves. But how do we live this way in real life? How do we transform attachment into true love? The first step is awareness. Notice when fear is speaking. Notice when you demand rather than offer, when you cling rather than trust. Awareness softens the grip. The second step is compassion. Remember that others, like you, are human. They will disappoint. They will change. They will leave eventually, whether through choice or through death. To expect otherwise is to fight reality. Compassion allows us to accept imperfection, to forgive, to hold space for the fragile beauty of human connection. There is a practice in Buddhism called metta, or loving kindness meditation. In this practice, you silently repeat phrases such as, "May I be happy," "May I be safe," "May I be at peace." Then you extend those wishes outward. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be at peace. You begin with yourself, and loved ones, then strangers, even those you struggle with. This practice expands the heart. It reminds us that love is not a transaction, but a gift. It frees us from the narrow demand that one person must give us everything. Instead, it opens us to a universal compassion that embraces all beings. Let us return to Sarah. After her heartbreak, she discovered this practice. Each night, she sat quietly, breathing deeply, repeating the phrases. At first, it felt mechanical, even false. But slowly, her heart softened. She began to wish happiness not only for herself, but for her former partner, even though he had left. She realized that his leaving did not mean she was unworthy. It simply meant that paths change, as they always do. With time, she felt lighter, freer. She could love again, not from desperation, but from wholeness. This is the transformation available to us all. Relationships need not be chains. They can be mirrors, reflecting our fears, our clinging, our illusions. And when we meet those illusions with awareness, relationships become teachers. They teach us to let go, to trust, to love without possession. Does this mean we never feel pain in relationships? No, loss will still hurt. Disappointment will still sting. But the pain will no longer destroy us. It will be a reminder of impermanence, a teacher of compassion. The heart will break, but in breaking, it will open wider God, and as the heart opens, we discover a paradox. The less we cling, the deeper we love. For love without chains is not shallow, it is vast. It allows us to celebrate joy without fear of loss, to face loss without collapsing, to give without demanding return. This is the love that LIBERAT is that as we walk further. We begin to see that relationships are not the only place where attachment breeds suffering. The same fear that drives us to cling to people also drives us to cling to our own thoughts and emotions. Anxiety, in particular, thrives on this clinging. We try to control the uncontrollable future. We replay the past. We live trapped in worry. And so, just as relationships invite us to loosen our grip, so too does anxiety invite us to discover the freedom of letting go. When we look honestly, many of our deepest struggles in relationships are not about the other person at all. They are about the expectations and fears inside us. We want someone to never leave, but everyone must leave someday. We want someone to never change, but everything changes. We want someone to heal our wounds, but those wounds are our own to face. And so, we end up demanding the impossible. No wonder we suffer. Modern culture magnifies this suffering. Movies tell us that true love lasts forever, that one perfect person will complete us, that passion should never fade. Social media shows us highlight reels of smiling couples, giving the illusion that everyone else is living a fairy tale. In this sea of unrealistic ideals, our real, messy, imperfect relationships feel inadequate. We ask, why isn't my love like theirs? We forget that behind every picture-perfect smile lies the same human impermanence, the same struggles, the same disappointments. The Buddhist teaching offers an antidote to these illusions. He did not promise that relationships would erase suffering. Instead, he pointed to a deeper truth. Freedom arises when we stop clinging. When we love without expecting permanence, when we connect without demanding control, when we care without attaching strings, then our relationships become paths to awakening rather than prisons of fear. Let us imagine a couple, John and Maria. At first, their love was full of fire. But as years passed, differences appeared. John grew quiet, preferring solitude. Maria longed for conversation and affection. They began to clash, each feeling unseen. One day, instead of arguing, Maria sat quietly and breathed. She asked herself, "What am I clinging to?" She realized she was clinging to an old image of John, the man he once was. She had not allowed him to change. And John, too, was clinging to the hope that Maria would stop asking for connection, stop needing so much. In their clinging, they hurt each other. But when they both learned to release expectations, something shifted. Maria stopped demanding that John be the same man forever. She opened space for who he was becoming. John, in turn, stopped resisting Maria's needs. He chose to listen with patience, even when it felt uncomfortable. Their love did not erase their differences, but it deepened into acceptance. They discovered that love is not about freezing each other in time, but about walking side by side, even as both change. This kind of love is active, not passive. It requires courage, the courage to face impermanence, the courage to let go, the courage to love with open hands. It is not easy, but it is real. And in its reality, it brings a joy more lasting than the fleeting thrill of romance. There is another important teaching here. Non-attachment does not mean indifference. Some people fear that letting go will make them cold or distant. But true non-attachment is not about pushing people away. It is about drawing closer without fear. It is about loving fully, knowing that loss will come, and yet choosing love anyway. When we stop clinging, we are not less connected. We are more connected because our connection is no longer tangled with fear. Think of a parent holding a child. The parent knows the child will grow, will one day leave, will one day die. But the parent loves fiercely, tenderly, in each moment. This is non-attachment, not absence of love, but presence of love without denial of impermanence. In fact, it is because the parent knows the child will not remain forever that the love becomes so precious. We can bring this same wisdom into all relationships. With friends, we can cherish their presence without expecting them to meet all our needs. With partners, we can love them as they are today, not as we wish they would always be. With family, we can forgive, recognizing that they too are caught in their own fears and clinging. Each relationship becomes an invitation to practice patience, compassion, openness. As we walk this path, relationships change shape. They stop being sources of endless drama and become fields of practice. When conflict arises, we ask, what am I holding on to? What expectation am I demanding? When jealousy stings, we ask, what fear is this pointing to? What am I unwilling to let go? Each moment of pain becomes a mirror, reflecting our attachments back to us. And each time we release one, we step into greater freedom. Of course, none of this means relationships will never end. They will. People leave, people change, people die. The pain of loss is real. But when we love without clinging, loss does not destroy us. Grief comes, but grief too can be embraced. The heart can break open and still remain whole. There is a story of a teacher who held a cup before his students. He said, "To me, this cup is already broken. It holds my tea. I enjoy it. But one day it will fall, it will shatter, and I will not be surprised. When I understand that it is already broken, every moment with it is precious." In the same way, when we recognize that every relationship is impermanent, every moment of love becomes sacred. Instead of fearing the end, we cherish the now. And so, as we reflect on our own lives, we are invited to ask, where am I clinging in my relationships? Where am I demanding that others stay the same, never leave, never change? Can I love more freely? Can I hold my relationships as already broken, not in despair, but in reverence, so that each moment becomes a gift? This shift does not remove the human need for connection. We will always long for love, for companionship. But when that longing is softened by wisdom, relationships transform. They are no longer cages. They are wings. They help us grow, expand, awaken. As we complete this chapter, take a moment to breathe. Think of someone you love. Whisper silently, "May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be free." Notice how your heart softens. Notice how love feels when it is not mixed with demand. This is the beginning of freedom. And now we step into the next doorway. Just as relationships stir our attachments, so too does the restless mind that feeds anxiety. Anxiety is like a shadow following us everywhere, whispering worst-case scenarios, keeping us from peace. To walk further on this journey, we must learn to face anxiety itself, not by running from it, not by drowning in it, but by meeting it with awareness and release. This is the lesson that awaits us in the next chapter. Anxiety has become the silent epidemic of our age. It does not always scream. Often it whispers. It whispers in the tightening of the chest before a meeting, in the racing thoughts before sleep, in the constant scanning for what might go wrong next. Unlike stress, which rises in response to clear demands, anxiety often lingers without a clear cause. It is the restless hum beneath the surface, the unease that something bad might happen, even when nothing is happening at all. Picture a young man lying in bed at night. His body is tired, but his mind is a battlefield. Every mistake of the day replays. Every possible disaster of tomorrow unfolds. His heart pounds though he is safe in his room. The mind insists, "What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if something terrible happens?" He tosses and turns, caught in loops of fear that never end. This is anxiety living in a future that has not arrived, haunted by shadows that may never come. In modern life, anxiety thrives because we are always connected, always comparing, always consuming. News alerts tell us of crises across the world. Social media shows us curated lives that seem better than ours. The pace of life leaves no space for stillness. Even in quiet moments, we pick up our phones, distracting ourselves, but never finding rest. The nervous system never resets. The mind never stops spinning. And so, anxiety becomes our default state. At its core, anxiety is the mind's desperate attempt to control the uncontrollable. We imagine every possible danger so that we can prepare, defend, avoid. But life is too vast, too unpredictable. No amount of worry can stop uncertainty. Instead, worry consumes us. We spend more energy on what might happen than on what is happening. We lose the present in the name of protecting the future. The Buddha understood this cycle well. He described the mind as a monkey, leaping from branch to branch, never still. Anxiety is the monkey at its wildest, grabbing fears, swinging from doubt to doubt, howling with restless energy. To fight the monkey is useless. To ignore it is impossible. The practice is to watch it with awareness, to see its movements clearly, and in that clarity, to loosen its grip. Imagine sitting by a river. The water rushes past, carrying leaves, twigs, debris. Each thought, each worry, each anxious scenario is like one of those leaves. Normally, we chase them, grab them, drown ourselves trying to hold on to them. But mindfulness teaches us to sit on the bank and watch. The leaves pass by. The river flows. The thoughts come and go. We do not need to follow each one. We can let them drift. This practice sounds simple, yet it transforms everything. The anxious man in bed learns, little by little, to notice his thoughts instead of drowning in them. When the voice says, "What if I fail?" he answers, "That is just a thought." When the heart races, he places a hand on his chest, breathes deeply, reminds himself, "In this moment, I am safe." Slowly, the panic softens. Sleep returns. The future remains uncertain, but the present becomes bearable. Anxiety often convinces us that we must solve every problem right now. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the present moment is enough. The breath is enough. The next step is enough. We do not need to live the entire future in our minds before it arrives. As one teaching says, anxiety does not empty tomorrow of its troubles. It only empties today of its peace. There is also great power in compassion when facing anxiety. So often, we blame ourselves for worrying. We scold, "Why can't I just calm down? What's wrong with me?" This only deepens the spiral. Instead, the practice is to meet anxiety with kindness. To say gently, "Dear one, I see you are afraid. It's okay. Breathe with me. You are safe right now." This inner compassion soothes the nervous system. It transforms anxiety from an enemy into a visitor, an uncomfortable one, but one we can host with patience until it passes. Consider Anna, a young professional overwhelmed by anxiety at work. Each email felt like a test. Each meeting filled her with dread. She often froze, unable to speak, ashamed of her fear. Therapy introduced her to mindful breathing. She began to pause before opening her inbox, placing her hand on her abdomen, feeling one deep breath. At first, it changed little, but with time, she noticed a shift. She no longer drowned in her fears. She could see them rise and fall like waves. Slowly, she began to speak in meetings, not perfectly, but bravely. Her colleagues noticed her growing calm. Anna realized that anxiety had not vanished, but it no longer ruled her. This is the heart of Buddhist wisdom. Liberation does not mean the storm never comes. It means the storm no longer controls us. Anxiety may knock on the door, but we do not need to invite it in for tea. We can acknowledge it, breathe, and return to the present. There is another teaching that speaks powerfully to anxiety: impermanence. Every feeling, no matter how intense, will pass. Anxiety tells us, this fear will last forever, but nothing lasts forever. Even the strongest panic rises, peaks, and fades. To remember impermanence is to loosen anxiety's grip. We whisper to ourselves, this too shall pass. And in that remembering, we find courage to endure. Stillness is another medicine. Our modern world values constant motion, constant noise. But the Buddha often retreated into silence, into forests, into stillness. In stillness, the nervous system resets. In silence, the anxious mind finds space. We do not need hours on a mountain. Even a few minutes of sitting quietly, breathing deeply, can begin to heal. And when we practice regularly, anxiety loses its power. The monkey mind grows calmer. The restless river becomes clearer. We discover that beneath the noise of fear, there is always a deeper stillness waiting for us. That stillness is our true home. Anxiety teaches us an important lesson. We cannot control life, but we can control how we meet it. We can meet it with fear, clinging, panic, or with awareness, compassion, trust. Each anxious moment is a choice point. Each breath is a chance to return to peace. As we walk forward, we see that anxiety is not the end of suffering, but another doorway. Beyond it lies the deeper understanding of karma, the law of cause and effect, the interconnectedness of all actions. For often, anxiety asks, why me? Why now? Why this? The next chapter offers an answer, not as punishment, but as profound wisdom. Anxiety thrives in the shadows of uncertainty. It whispers that we must know the outcome before we can rest. It insists that every possible danger must be prepared for, every future moment rehearsed. Yet the irony is clear. The more we rehearse the future, the less we live the present. We trade real life for imagined disasters. We miss the only place where joy is possible, this moment. The Buddha once said, do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. This teaching is not abstract. It is medicine. Each time anxiety pulls us forward into what-if scenarios, we can pause and return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to what is real right now. This practice is not an escape from life. It is the only way to truly live it. Think of Thomas, a father of two, who constantly worried about his children's future. He obsessed over schools, careers, safety. He wanted to protect them from every possible harm. But his worry made him impatient and distant. He was always planning, never present. One evening, while lost in thought, he nearly missed his son's simple request. "Dad, will you play with me?" That moment woke him. He realized that while worrying about the future, he was losing the present the very time his children needed him most. From then on, he began to practice presence. He still cared about their future, but he no longer allowed anxiety to rob today. His children did not need a father who solved every problem. They needed a father who was there. This story reveals the heart of the practice. Anxiety feeds on absence. Presence starves it. The more we return to what is here, this breath, this conversation, this step, the less power anxiety holds. The future is always uncertain. But in this moment, we can breathe. In this moment, we can live. Another powerful teaching for anxiety is trust. Trust does not mean blind faith that everything will go our way. It means confidence in our ability to meet whatever arises. Anxiety says, "What if I can't handle it?" Trust answers, "I will meet it when it comes." Trust is not about predicting outcomes. It is about trusting ourselves to walk through them. There is a story of a monk asked how he remained calm in uncertainty. He said, "I trust the path. I trust that if I walk with mindfulness, compassion, and awareness, then whatever comes, I will meet it fully. I do not need to know the future. I only need to walk the path." This is the essence of Buddhist trust. Not trust in guarantees, but trust in the practice. Not trust in control, but trust in letting go. We can also look at anxiety through the lens of compassion for others. So many people suffer silently, believing their worry makes them weak. But anxiety is not weakness. It is the mind's attempt to protect itself. When we see others struggling, we can offer gentleness rather than judgment. A kind word, a calm presence, a reminder to breathe, these small gifts can bring great relief. And in offering compassion to others, we strengthen our own ability to meet fear with kindness. Of course, anxiety does not vanish overnight. The monkey mind still leaps. The river still carries debris. But with practice, the waves grow gentler. With awareness, we no longer drown. With compassion, we no longer fight ourselves. Anxiety becomes less a monster and more a messenger, pointing us back to the present, back to impermanence, back to trust. The paradox of anxiety is that the more we resist it, the stronger it becomes. But when we turn toward it, breathe with it, and see its nature, it begins to dissolve. Like a shadow exposed to light, it loses its form. What remains is not certainty, but peace with uncertainty. And so, as we close this chapter, pause once more. Breathe deeply. Whisper to yourself, "I am here. I am safe in this moment. I trust myself to meet life as it comes." Feel the relief in that. Feel how the restless mind softens when it is seen, when it is met with compassion instead of fear. Now we step into a new doorway. For while anxiety is often about the unknown future, another question haunts us. Why do things happen the way they do? Why do we face loss, illness, disappointment? Why do good people suffer and unkind people prosper? These questions fuel anxiety and doubt. The next chapter offers insight through the ancient teaching of karma, not as punishment, not as superstition, but as a profound understanding of cause and effect, a way of seeing life's unfolding with clarity and acceptance. One of the deepest questions people carry is, why did this happen to me? When illness strikes, when betrayal wounds, when success slips away, the heart aches for explanation. We want the world to feel fair. We want suffering to make sense. Yet often, life appears random. Good people suffer, while selfish people seem to prosper. This apparent injustice fuels anger, despair, even hopelessness. It makes us feel like victims of a cruel and unpredictable world. But Buddhist wisdom offers a perspective that reshapes this question entirely. Karma. Karma is not a cosmic scorekeeper, not a judge handing out rewards and punishments. It is the law of cause and effect. Every action, every word, every thought plants a seed. Over time, seeds grow into fruit. Some bear sweetness, others bitterness. The field of life responds not to our wishes, but to our actions. This teaching does not erase suffering, but it does shift how we see it. When something painful happens, we can ask, what seed is ripening here? Not in blame, not in shame, but in clarity. We see that life is a web of causes, stretching far beyond what we can see. Just as a farmer cannot plant corn today and expect a harvest tomorrow, so too the fruits of karma may take time days, years, even lifetimes to appear. This does not mean everything that happens is our fault. It means everything arises from conditions. And in this moment, we can plant new seeds. Imagine a man named Daniel. He often lashed out in anger at work, belittling his coworkers. Over time, trust eroded and promotions passed him by. He grew bitter, telling himself the world was unfair. One day, after another rejection, he stumbled upon a teaching on karma. Slowly, he realized his situation was not random punishment. His own actions had created mistrust. His own words had planted the seeds of isolation. This recognition was painful, but it was also liberating. If his actions had created suffering, then new actions could create healing. Daniel began to practice patience, speaking with kindness, listening more. It took time, but slowly his relationships changed. Respect grew. Opportunities returned. Karma was not punishment. It was teaching. This is the profound gift of karma. It restores power to the present. Instead of feeling trapped by fate, we realize that every moment is fertile ground. Every choice matters. Every intention shapes the future. Even if the past cannot be undone, the future is unwritten. By planting seeds of compassion, honesty, and generosity today, we shape a tomorrow of peace. Karma also invites us to compassion for others. When someone causes harm, it is tempting to judge harshly. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us, their actions are seeds too. Those seeds will bear fruit, whether or not we see it. We do not need to be the judge. Life itself teaches. This does not excuse harm, but it softens our hatred. We recognize that those who hurt us are also caught in cycles of ignorance and fear. Instead of vengeance, we can choose compassion, trusting that cause and effect will unfold. Consider the image of ripples in a pond. When we toss a stone, the ripples spread far beyond what we can see. Our actions are the same. A kind word may ripple into someone's day, their week, even their life. A harsh word may do the same. We often underestimate the power of small choices. Yet karma reminds us, nothing is lost. Every ripple matters. This teaching can bring great comfort in times of grief. Imagine a woman who loses her job unexpectedly. At first, she is devastated. But with reflection, she sees that her unhappiness in the role had been growing. The loss, though painful, opened space for a new path, one that aligned more deeply with her values. The seed of change had been planted long before. Losing the job was simply its fruit. Karma does not always bring what we want, but it always reveals what we need to learn. Still, karma is not always easy to accept. When tragedy strikes, When innocent lives are lost, when suffering feels unbearable, the mind rebels. How can this be fair? And here, Buddhist wisdom offers humility. Karma is vast, stretching across countless causes and conditions. We cannot always see the full picture. What we can do is meet suffering with presence and compassion. We can trust that even in darkness, seeds of light can be planted. There is a saying, if you want to know your past, look at your present. If you want to know your future, look at your present. This is the essence of karma. The present is both fruit and seed. What we experience today arises from yesterday's seeds. What we choose today creates tomorrow's harvest. We cannot change the past, but we can change our response. And in that response lies freedom. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. Think of a time when your actions, large or small, set in motion a chain of events you could not foresee. Perhaps a kind gesture blossomed into a lifelong friendship. Perhaps a careless word created years of distance. These reflections reveal karma in action, not as destiny, but as consequence. Not as punishment, but as teaching. When we understand this, we begin to live more mindfully. We choose our words with care, knowing they plant seeds. We act with compassion, knowing every action ripples outward. We think with awareness, knowing even thoughts shape our intentions. Karma calls us to responsibility, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Asterisk. And as we walk this path, something remarkable happens. Anxiety softens, for we realize we do not need to control every outcome. We need only plant good seeds. Fear loosens, for we trust the process of cause and effect. Resentment fades, for we see that everyone is caught in the same web. Karma teaches accountability, but also forgiveness. It teaches discipline, but also compassion. As we move deeper into this teaching, we will see that karma also connects to the very nature of self. For if everything arises from causes and conditions, then what we call self is also not fixed, not permanent. It too is a process, a river of change. And in understanding this, we discover the deepest freedom of all. But before we arrive there, let us pause here, with karma, with its ripples, with its seeds. Let us breathe and remember, what we do now matters. Karma is often misunderstood as fate, as if everything is already written and we are powerless. But in truth, karma is the opposite of fatalism. It is empowerment. It tells us, your actions matter. Your choices shape the future. You are not condemned to repeat the past. Each breath is a chance to plant new seeds. This is why Buddhist teachers often describe karma as a garden. Imagine walking into a field that you inherited. Some parts are fertile and beautiful, filled with flowers planted long ago. Other parts are overgrown with weeds. You did not choose all of it, but it is now your garden. You can spend your days cursing the weeds, or you can begin to plant. Every seed you place in the soil today will shape the field tomorrow. This is how karma works, but tending a garden requires patience. Weeds do not vanish overnight. Seeds do not bloom the same day they are planted. In the same way, when we shift our actions, the fruits may take time to appear. This is where trust is needed. Trust that wholesome actions will bear wholesome fruit, even if the results are not immediate. Take the story of Elena, a woman who had lived much of her life chasing pleasure and ignoring others. Her relationships were shallow, her career unstable. She often felt empty, but blamed the world for her pain. Eventually, after a series of losses, she encountered the teachings of karma. At first, she resisted, saying, "Are you telling me this is all my fault?" But slowly, she realized that karma was not about blame, it was about responsibility. She began small, offering kindness to strangers, honesty in her work, patience with her family. At first, little changed. But over the years, her relationships deepened, her career stabilized, her heart grew lighter. The weeds remained in parts of her garden, but the flowers spread. Her life became a testament to the slow but certain power of planting new seeds. Understanding also brings compassion when life feels unfair. When we see someone suffering, we do not need to say, "It's their karma." That is not kindness. Instead, we recognize that life is complex, with countless conditions at play. We may not know the causes of another's pain, but we can always choose to respond with compassion. In fact, our response itself plants seeds. To turn away plants seeds of indifference. To turn toward plants seeds of love. The teaching of karma also helps us release resentment. How often do we carry grudges, telling ourselves that someone must pay for the harm they caused? Yet karma assures us that every action bears fruit. We do not need to carry the weight of vengeance. Life itself will teach. Our task is to keep our own garden pure, to plant seeds of peace rather than bitterness. Consider the story of a farmer whose neighbor wronged him. For years, he carried anger, waiting for justice. But his anger poisoned his days, making him harsh with his family, restless in his work. Eventually, he realized that his own anger was the heaviest burden. He chose to forgive, not because the neighbor deserved it, but because he himself deserved peace. In that forgiveness, he planted seeds of freedom. His neighbor's karma remained his own. The farmer's heart was no longer chained to God. This is the profound shift karma invites. From victimhood to responsibility, from resentment to compassion, from despair to hope. We see that nothing is wasted. Even suffering can become a seed for wisdom if we meet it with awareness. Even mistakes can become teachers if we learn from them. Karma is not a closed book. It is an open field, always waiting for what we plant next. And so, as we breathe into this truth, we find peace in uncertainty. We do not need to know why every event unfolds as it does. We do not need to see the full web of causes. We only need to trust that our present choices matter. With each word of kindness, each act of generosity, each moment of awareness, we shape a future of greater peace. Now, let us look deeper. If karma shows us that everything arises from causes and conditions, then what about the self we cling to so tightly? Is this me solid, permanent, unchanging? Or is it too the product of countless conditions, always shifting, always flowing? In the next chapter, we will explore this profound question. We will see that the self we guard so fiercely is not a prison we must defend, but a river we can flow with. And in this realization lies the deepest freedom of all. Life in the modern world often feels like a pendulum swinging between extremes. One day we push ourselves to exhaustion, convinced that hard work will finally earn us peace. The next day we collapse into avoidance, binge-watching shows or scrolling endlessly, unable to face our responsibilities. We swing from indulgence to denial, from overwork to laziness, from obsession to neglect. And each swing leaves us more tired, more confused, more restless. The Buddha knew this struggle well. Before his awakening, he lived both extremes. As a young prince, he indulged in every luxury, fine food, music, comfort. Yet he found no lasting peace. Later, as an ascetic, he starved his body, denied his needs, punished himself with severe discipline. Still, peace eluded him. Only when he abandoned both extremes did he discover the path of wisdom. He called it the middle way, not mediocrity, not compromise, but balance. The middle way is not easy for us because our culture glorifies extremes. Success is measured by overwork, self-denial, sacrifice. Pleasure is marketed as endless consumption, constant stimulation, instant gratification. We are told that happiness lies either in relentless achievement or in boundless indulgence. Yet both leave us empty. We run toward one extreme, then recoil toward the other, never finding rest. Imagine a musician tuning a stringed instrument. If the string is too tight, it snaps. If it is too loose, it produces no sound. Only when it is balanced, neither too tight nor too loose, does it create music. This is the essence of the middle way. Our lives, like the string, must be tuned with care. Too much discipline leads to rigidity. Too much indulgence leads to chaos. Balance creates harmony. Consider Rachel, a young lawyer driven by ambition. She worked long hours, skipped meals, neglected sleep. Her health declined. Her relationships withered. Exhaustion became her constant companion. One day, she collapsed at her desk. The doctor warned, "If you continue like this, you will not last." Terrified, she took a break, but soon swung to the other extreme. She avoided work, overindulged in comfort, let her responsibilities slide. Guilt replaced exhaustion. Neither extreme gave her peace. Only when she began to practice balance, working with focus, resting with intention, eating with awareness, did her life regain harmony. She discovered that peace was not in running to extremes, but in walking the middle way. The middle way does not mean we abandon effort. It means we bring mindfulness to effort. We ask, am I pushing too hard? Am I avoiding too much? We learn to listen to the body, to notice the signs of imbalanced tension, fatigue, restlessness. These are signals, guiding us back to center. This path also applies to emotions. Many of us either suppress our feelings or drown in them. Suppression makes us rigid, disconnected. Overindulgence makes us chaotic, overwhelmed. The middle way invites us to feel emotions fully, but without being consumed. When anger arises, we acknowledge it, breathe with it, understand its cause, without lashing out or pushing it down. When joy arises, we savor it without clinging or fearing its loss. Balance allows emotions to flow like rivers, neither dammed nor flooded. There is a story of a monk who practiced meditation with such intensity that he harmed his health. The Buddha told him the parable of the lute. If the strings are too tight, they break. If too loose, they do not play. Tune your practice as you would tune your lute. The monk understood. He softened his discipline, cared for his body, and his meditation deepened. The lesson was clear. Balance does not weaken practice. It strengthens it. The middle way also transforms our relationship with desire. Desire itself is not evil. To eat when hungry, to rest when tired, to seek companionship, these are natural. The suffering arises when desire becomes craving, when enough is never enough. The middle way teaches us to meet desire with awareness, to enjoy a meal without overeating, to rest without falling into laziness, to love without clinging. In this balance, life becomes joyful rather than burdensome. Think of Michael, who once struggled with food. He swung between strict diets and uncontrolled binges. Each extreme brought suffering, shame when he overindulged, pride mixed with deprivation when he restricted. Through mindfulness, he discovered the middle way. He began to eat slowly, tasting each bite, listening to his body's signals. He no longer starved or stuffed himself. Food became nourishment, not obsession. His body grew healthier, his mind calmer. Balance healed what extremes had broken. The middle way can also guide our use of technology. In today's world, screens dominate. Some people lose themselves in endless scrolling, their attention scattered. Others reject technology entirely, feeling overwhelmed. The middle way invites us to use technology, wisely connecting when it serves, resting when it does not. Instead of being mastered by screens, we master our relationship with them. Ultimately, the middle way is about presence. It teaches us that peace is not found in extremes, but in the steady step, the mindful breath, the balanced choice. Each day, we are invited to tune our lives as carefully as a musician tunes her instrument. When we do, Harmony emerges, not perfect, not permanent, but real dot as we close this first half of the middle way. Pause and reflect. Where are the extremes in your life? Where are the strings too tight? Where too loose? Can you bring awareness to these places and gently guide them back to balance? In the next section, we will go deeper into how the middle way applies not only to our personal lives, but also to our engagement with others and the world. We will see that balance is not withdrawal, but full participation, living with wisdom, compassion, and steadiness, no matter what life brings. Balance is not weakness. Many people believe that unless they live at the extremes, they are not truly living. They say, if I do not give everything, I will fail. Or if I do not indulge fully, I will miss out. Yet both extremes carry hidden suffering. Overwork leads to burnout. Overindulgence leads to emptiness. The middle way shows us that balance is not about doing less. It is about doing wisely. Consider David, an athlete who trained relentlessly, chasing victory. He pushed his body beyond its limits, ignoring pain. He believed discipline meant never resting. But his body broke down. Injuries ended his career early. At first, he despaired, believing his life was over. But with time, he discovered meditation. He learned to listen to his body, to honor rest as much as effort. He began to teach young athletes the value of balance training hard, but also recovering fully. He realized that true strength is not endless pushing, but knowing when to push and when to pause. This is the middle way in action. The middle way is also a guide for our relationships. In conflict, some withdraw completely, avoiding all confrontation. Others explode with anger, demanding control. Both extremes harm connection. Balance means speaking truth with kindness, listening as well as expressing, giving and receiving in equal measure. It means honoring both self and other, not sacrificing one for the other. When relationships are tuned with balance, they become resilient, able to withstand the storms of change. Even in spirituality, balance is essential. Some people become rigid, obsessed with rules, measuring their worth by how perfectly they follow every detail. Others dismiss practice altogether, saying, "It is too hard," or "It does not matter." The Buddha warned against both. Spiritual practice should not be punishment, nor should it be neglect. It should be a path walked with sincerity, patience, and joy. A balanced practice is sustainable, nourishing, alive. The middle way also speaks to how we engage with the world. Some withdraw completely, saying, "The world is too messy. I will escape." Others immerse themselves in constant activism, burning out under the weight of endless causes. Balance does not mean indifference. It means engaging with wisdom. We act when action is needed. We rest when rest is needed. We care deeply, but we do not destroy ourselves in the process. Imagine a teacher named Lila who cared deeply about social justice. She worked tirelessly, protesting, organizing, giving everything she had. But eventually, exhaustion consumed her. She felt bitter, hopeless, drained. Then she encountered the teaching of balance. She began to meditate, to care for her body, to take breaks without guilt. She continued her activism, but now with steadiness. She learned that to sustain her work for others, she had to sustain herself. The middle way gave her the strength to keep serving without collapsing. Balance also reveals itself in the way we relate to pleasure. Some people fear pleasure, believing it corrupts. Others chase it endlessly, believing it will save them. Both miss the truth. Pleasure is part of life. It is not to be rejected, nor clung to. The middle way teaches us to enjoy without attachment, to savor without grasping. A beautiful meal, a sunset, laughter with friends, these can be received with gratitude, without demanding that they last forever. The heart of the middle way is mindfulness. Without awareness, we swing between extremes unconsciously. With awareness, we can pause, reflect, and choose balance. Mindfulness is the gentle hand that steadies the pendulum. It reminds us, not too tight, not too loose. Walk the middle path. As we practice, balance becomes natural. We no longer chase perfection. We no longer fear failure. We live with steadiness, able to meet joy without clinging and pain without collapsing. This steadiness is freedom. It is not dramatic, not flashy, but it is deep and unshakable. Take a moment now to breathe. Ask yourself, where in my life am I too tight? Where am I too loose? Where can I bring balance? Let the answers come gently. Balance is not found in sudden leaps, but in small, steady adjustments. Each mindful step is a step toward harmony. And as we close this chapter, remember, the middle way is not only a teaching, it is a way of living. It is the art of tuning the instrument of your life so that it plays music, not noise. It is the wisdom of moderation, the courage of presence, the gift of steadiness. Now we step into another deep challenge of modern life: grief and loss. No matter how balanced we live, loss will come. Loved ones will die, dreams will fade, health will fail. Grief strikes every heart, shaking the ground beneath us. The next chapter invites us to walk into grief not as enemies, but as students discovering how even loss can open the door to compassion and end. Freedom. There are moments in life when the world as we know it ends. A loved one dies. A relationship breaks. A diagnosis changes everything. In these moments, grief floods the heart like a tidal wave. The air feels heavy. The days lose meaning. The body itself aches. Nothing seems real, yet everything hurts. Grief is not just sadness, it is disorientation. The map of life is torn apart, and we no longer know where we are in modern society. Grief is often hidden. People say, "Be strong," or "move on," as if grief were a weakness, an inconvenience. Funerals are brief, condolences are quick, and then the world expects us to return to normal. But inside, we are anything but normal. The loss echoes through every corner of our being. We see their empty chair, hear their absent laugh, feel their missing presence. The wound does not vanish on schedule. This hidden grief creates loneliness. We may smile in public, but at night, the tears flow. We may continue working, but every task feels heavy. We may appear functional, but inside, we are shattered. And because society avoids speaking of death, we often feel isolated in our sorrow, as if something is wrong with us for not getting over it. Yet grief is not a mistake. It is love turned into pain. It is the natural response to loss. The Buddha himself faced grief. His teachings arose not from escape, but from deep encounters with suffering. When he saw sickness, old age, and death, he realized that no one escapes loss. Grief is woven into the fabric of human life. To deny it, it is to deny life itself. But to face it with awareness opens the door to wisdom. Imagine a woman named Claire who lost her husband suddenly. The shock left her numb, then drowning in sorrow. She tried to return to work, but each day felt impossible. Friends avoided speaking of him, afraid of her tears. She felt invisible in her pain. One evening, she sat quietly, remembering his smile. The grief overwhelmed her, but she allowed herself to breathe with it, to feel it fully. Instead of pushing it away, she whispered, "This is love," missing its form. In that moment, she realized her grief was not her enemy. It was the echo of love. And though the pain remained, it became less suffocating. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to meet grief with mindfulness. Instead of drowning in it or suppressing it, we acknowledge it. This is grief. This is loss. This is love in pain. Naming it softens the resistance. Breathing with it creates space. We discover that we do not need to run from grief. We can sit with it, like sitting with a storm. The storm may rage, but we remain present. And in presence, healing begins. Impermanence is another teaching that holds us in grief. Everything we love is destined to change, to fade, to pass. This truth is not meant to be cruel. It is meant to awaken us. When we see that life is fragile, we cherish it more deeply. The flower's beauty is in its brief bloom. The sunset's wonder is in its fading light. The love we shared with those we lost is precious because it could not last forever. To see impermanence is not to love less, but to love more tenderly, knowing every moment is a gift. There is a story of a woman named Kissa Gautami whose child died. Overcome with grief, she went to the Buddha, begging him to bring her son back. The Buddha told her to find a mustard seed from a house untouched by death. She went from home to home, but every family had faced loss. Slowly, she realized that death touches all. Her grief was not a punishment. It was part of the human story. With this realization, her pain softened into compassion. She no longer carried grief alone, she shared it with all beings. This story reminds us that grief, though personal, is universal. Every person we meet has known loss or will. When we remember this, our grief becomes a bridge, connecting us to others rather than isolating us. Compassion grows in the soil of loss. Our own broken heart teaches us to care more gently for the broken hearts of others. But how do we live when the pain feels unbearable? The Buddha's teaching is simple. One breath at a time, one step at a time. We do not need to heal all at once. We need only to be here now. Some days, the grief will crash like waves. Other days, it will be quiet. Both are natural. Healing is not a straight line, but a winding path. Mindfulness helps us walk it with patience. Consider also the role of rituals. In many cultures, rituals honor the dead and give space for grief. Lighting a candle, saying a prayer, visiting a grave, these simple acts help us express love and remembrance. They remind us that though the person is gone, the bond remains. In Buddhism, chanting or dedicating merit to the deceased keeps the connection alive in a wholesome way, turning grief into compassion. Over time, grief transforms. It does not disappear, but it changes shape. The raw wound becomes a scar, tender but no longer bleeding. The tears remain, but so does gratitude. We begin to see that love does not end with death. It continues in memory, in influence, in the ways the person shaped us. Their voice echoes in our choices. Their love lives in our hearts. In this way, grief becomes not only pain but also legacy. As we reflect on this, let us pause. Think of someone you have lost. Breathe deeply. Whisper, "Thank you. I carry you with me." Feel the love beneath the grief. Feel the gratitude within the pain. This is the path of healing. Not forgetting, not denying, but transforming. And as we move forward, we will explore how grief also points us toward another universal truth: loneliness. For in loss, we often feel most alone. But loneliness itself is another form of suffering, another doorway to compassion and freedom. In the next section, we will walk into this tender space, discovering how to transform loneliness into connection and isolation into presence. Grief changes us. It cracks us open, sometimes against our will. We may long to return to the life we had before, to the sense of normal we once knew. But grief does not allow that. Life after loss is never the same as life before it. Yet this is not only tragedy, it can also be transformation. The brokenness of grief can soften the heart, deepen compassion, awaken wisdom. Many people describe grief as waves. At first, the waves crash constantly, dragging us under, leaving us gasping for air. Over time, the waves grow farther apart. They still come, sometimes without warning, but we learn to float. We realize we do not need to fight the ocean. We can let the waves rise and fall, trusting that they will pass. This trust does not erase the pain, but it allows us to live with it. The Buddha compared sorrow to arrows. The first arrow is the loss itself, sharp, painful, unavoidable. The second arrow is our resistance, the stories we tell ourselves. This should not have happened. I cannot survive this. Life is unfair. The first arrow is inevitable. The second arrow is optional. Mindfulness teaches us to stop shooting ourselves with the second arrow. We still feel pain, but we release the suffering we add by fighting reality. Imagine a man named Robert who lost his sister to illness. At first, he lived only in the second arrow. He replayed the past, blaming himself for not doing more. He raged at the unfairness of it all. His grief was doubled by guilt and anger. When he began to practice mindfulness, he learned to separate the two arrows. He could not change her death, the first arrow, but he could soften his resistance. He whispered to himself, "This hurts. This is loss, and it is part of life." Slowly, his guilt loosened. His anger quieted. The grief remained, but it was no longer crushing. This teaching does not ask us to deny our pain. It asks us to see it clearly, to let it be what it is. Grief is not a problem to fix, but a truth to honor. When we allow it space, it moves through us. When we resist, it traps us. Another gift of grief is humility. It reminds us of what truly matters. In the face of death, our endless striving for money, status, possessions feels small. What remains is love, kindness, presence. People rarely say on their deathbed, "I wish I had worked more." They say, "I wish I had loved more. I wish I had been present." Grief strips away illusions and shows us what is real. This humility can guide our choices. After loss, many people find themselves living differently, slowing down, cherishing relationships, giving more time to what nourishes the soul. Grief, painful as it is, can be a teacher, showing us how to live more fully. And yet, grief is not only personal. It connects us to the grief of all beings. When we lose someone we love, we join a vast river of sorrow that flows through humanity. Every culture, every family, every heart has known this ache. Remembering this can transform isolation into connection. We realize we are not alone in our tears. We are part of the shared human story. This is why communities that gather to mourn are so powerful. Whether through rituals, memorials, or simple gatherings, they remind us that grief is not meant to be carried alone. In Buddhism, when a community chants for the deceased, the sound rises like a river of compassion, carrying the living and the dead together. This collective grief eases the loneliness of loss. Still, even in community, there are moments when grief feels like solitary silence. We may sit in an empty room, surrounded by memories, overwhelmed by absence. These are tender times. And yet, even here, there is a doorway. If we can sit quietly, breathing with our sorrow, we may sense something beyond absence. We may feel the depth of love that remains, the presence of the person within us, the larger rhythm of life that holds us. In this stillness, grief becomes not only a wound, but also a window opening us to impermanence, compassion, and connection. Let us pause here. Think of someone you have lost. Close your eyes. Whisper, "You are gone, and yet you remain in me. May you be free. May I carry you with love. Feel the tears if they come. Feel the warmth of gratitude within them." This is how grief transforms, not by erasing loss, but by weaving it into love. And now, as we step forward, we turn to another form of suffering that often walks hand in hand with grief: loneliness. After loss, loneliness deepens. Even without loss, Many in modern life feel isolated, surrounded by people, yet disconnected at heart. Loneliness is one of the great pains of our age, but also one of the great teachers. The next chapter will invite us to explore loneliness, not as a curse, but as a path toward deeper connection with ourselves, with others, and with life itself. Loneliness is one of the quietest yet most painful forms of suffering. It does not always shout. It does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like a person scrolling through their phone late at night, surrounded by noise but aching inside. Sometimes it looks like a crowded party where someone laughs on the outside but feels invisible within. Loneliness is not only being alone, it is feeling cut off, unseen, disconnected even in the midst of others. In today's world, loneliness has become an epidemic. Technology connects us instantly across oceans, yet so many feel isolated. Social media shows us thousands of faces, yet leaves us hungry for true presence. Cities are crowded, workplaces are busy, schedules are packed, yet hearts feel empty. The paradox is clear. Never before have we been so connected, and never before have so many felt so alone. Loneliness hurts because we are wired for connection. From birth, we need touch, eye contact, care. Our nervous systems calm in the presence of others. Our joy expands when shared. To feel unseen or unloved is to feel incomplete. This is why loneliness cuts so deep. It touches the very core of our humanity. Consider Emily, a woman in her 30s, living in a bustling city. She worked long hours, surrounded by colleagues, yet felt invisible. She had hundreds of online friends, but no one she could call at 2 a.m. when her anxiety spiked. Each night, she returned to her apartment, the silence pressing against her chest. She wondered, what's wrong with me? Why can't I connect like others? Her loneliness became shame, and the shame deepened her isolation. This is the cruel cycle of loneliness. It tells us we are unworthy of connection, and so we withdraw, which makes us feel even lonelier. The mind whispers, everyone else belongs. You are the only one outside. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us, this is illusion. Loneliness is not proof of our unworthiness. It is proof of our longing. And longing is natural. The Buddha taught that all beings seek connection. We are interdependent. Just as a tree cannot grow without soil, water, and sunlight, we cannot thrive without community. The sense of separation is a misunderstanding of reality. In truth, we are always connected to the earth, to the air, to each other. Loneliness arises when we forget this truth. How then do we heal loneliness? First, by turning inward. Often, we seek others to fill the emptiness inside. But if we do not befriend ourselves, no one else can complete us. Solitude becomes unbearable when our own company feels hostile. The practice begins with sitting quietly, breathing, and offering kindness to ourselves. To say, may I be happy. May I be safe. May I be at peace. Over time, this self-compassion softens the sharp edges of loneliness. We discover that we are never truly alone, for we carry within us the capacity for love. Then, we turn outward not through desperate grasping, but through genuine presence. True connection does not come from quantity, but from quality. One moment of full attention, one conversation of deep listening, one act of kindness can nourish more than 100 shallow interactions. To heal loneliness, we practice showing up, not only seeking to be seen, but also learning to truly see others. Imagine Emily again. After months of aching loneliness, she joined a meditation group. At first, she felt awkward, surrounded by strangers. But as she sat in silence with others, breathing together, something shifted. For the first time in years, she felt connected not through words, but through shared presence. Later, she began to volunteer at a shelter, serving meals. Each smile she offered, each thank you she received, became threads of connection. Slowly, the wall of isolation cracked. She realized that connection was not something to wait for, it was something to create. Moment by moment Buddhism also teaches that compassion is the antidote to loneliness. When we turn our attention to the suffering of others, our own suffering feels less isolating. We see that others too feel invisible, unloved, forgotten. Reaching out with kindness bridges the gap. Loneliness shrinks in the presence of shared humanity. There is a story of a monk who once felt deep loneliness in his solitary practice. He confessed his pain to his teacher, who said, "Go into the village and help someone. Carry water, cook food, listen to their sorrow. When you return, your loneliness will be less." The monk obeyed. As he served, he felt his heart open. His loneliness did not vanish, but it transformed. He realized that connection is not about always being surrounded. It is about opening the heart to others. Still, loneliness is not always solved by others. Sometimes it invites us deeper into ourselves. There is a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is emptiness. Solitude is fullness. Loneliness says, "I am incomplete." Solitude says, "I am whole in myself." Through mindfulness, we can transform loneliness into solitude, learning to rest in our own presence, to discover peace within. Then, when we connect with others, it is not from desperation, but from wholeness. Take a moment now. Sit quietly. Place a hand on your heart. Whisper, "I am here. I am enough. I belong." Feel the warmth of your own presence. This practice is simple, but powerful. It reminds us that connection begins within. As we walk further, we see that loneliness is not only personal, it is also collective. Whole societies feel disconnected, divided by politics, culture, fear. Communities fracture, people withdraw into tribes, suspicion grows. The suffering of loneliness scales from the individual to the collective. Healing it requires more than personal practice. It requires building bridges, creating spaces of compassion, remembering our shared humanity. And so, loneliness becomes both teacher and path. It teaches us the depth of our longing, the importance of connection, the necessity of compassion. It invites us to love ourselves, to reach out to others, to recognize our interdependence. And in doing so, it transforms from curse to guide. In the next section, we will go deeper into how loneliness can become a doorway to spiritual awakening. We will see that in the very heart of loneliness lies a profound truth, that separation is an illusion, and that when we see clearly, we discover we have never been truly alone. When we sit with loneliness long enough, we begin to see something surprising. Beneath the ache of separation is not emptiness, but longing for wholeness. The pain of loneliness is proof of our capacity for love. It hurts because we are meant for connection. It hurts because our hearts are alive. This is why loneliness can become a doorway to awakening. When we stop running from it and instead listen, loneliness teaches us the truth of interbeing. We are not separate, though the mind convinces us otherwise. Every breath connects us to trees, every meal to the earth, every heartbeat to countless conditions that make our life possible. Loneliness whispers the illusion of isolation. Awareness reveals the reality of connection. Take the story of Hiroshi, a man who lived alone after his children moved away. At first, he sank into despair, believing his life was meaningless. But during meditation, he noticed his breath. He realized each breath was given by trees, by the air, by the earth. He realized the food on his table came from farmers, rain, sun, countless hands. Slowly, he saw that he was never truly alone. Even in solitude, he was connected to the whole universe. His loneliness softened into gratitude. This shift does not mean we no longer need people. Human presence remains vital, but it means we no longer see ourselves as isolated islands. We see ourselves as waves in the ocean of life. Each wave rises and falls, but it is never separate from the sea. In this vision, loneliness loses its sharpness. We belong, always. By nature of being alive. Compassion deepens this truth. When we feel lonely, we can remember millions of others feel the same at this very moment. Somewhere, someone is also sitting in silence, longing to be seen. This realization can open the heart. Instead of feeling cursed, we feel connected through shared humanity. Our loneliness becomes compassion. There is a practice in Buddhism called Tonglen, or sending and receiving. When loneliness arises, we breathe it in, not only our own, but the loneliness of all beings. We imagine their pain, their longing. Then we breathe out compassion, wishing them peace, connection, belonging. This practice transforms loneliness into service. It reminds us that our suffering is not separate, but part of the vast fabric of life. Loneliness can also point us toward creativity. Many artists, writers, and thinkers have birthed their greatest work in solitude. In the quiet of being alone, the heart listens more deeply. The pain of loneliness becomes the soil for beauty. Poetry, music, art all can emerge from this fertile ground. The key is not to drown in loneliness, but to channel it, to let it speak through creation. Still, we must be gentle. Loneliness is heavy. It can lead to despair if left unattended. This is why mindfulness and compassion are essential. They keep us from sinking. They remind us that the pain is real, but not final, sharp, but not eternal. With awareness, even loneliness can transform into presence, into connection, into love. Imagine Emily once more, the woman in the city. As she practiced meditation, as she volunteered, as she connected with herself, her loneliness changed. It did not vanish completely, but it no longer defined her. She began to see it as a signal, a reminder to open her heart, to reach out, to create connection rather than wait for it. Her loneliness became a teacher, and in that shift, she discovered belonging, not in the number of people around her, but in the depth of her presence with herself and others. This is the gift loneliness can offer us all. It shows us where we are closed and invites us to open. It reveals the illusion of separation and points us toward truth. It calls us to compassion, to creativity, to connection. And when we meet it with awareness, it becomes less an enemy and more a guide. As we close this chapter, take one more breath. Whisper, I am connected. I belong. May all who feel lonely know they are not alone. Feel the truth of those words ripple outward. Somewhere, someone else may feel it too. This is connection. This is healing. Now, as we step forward, we encounter another deep challenge of modern life: anger and resentment. Just as loneliness isolates the heart, anger burns it. Just as loneliness whispers, "You are alone," anger shouts, "You are against me." The next chapter will guide us into this fire, showing us how Buddhist wisdom can transform anger, not by suppressing it, not by unleashing it, but by turning it into understanding and compassion. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. It rises quickly, like fire catching dry grass. A single word, a careless action, a painful memory, and suddenly the body heats, the voice sharpens, the mind narrows. In anger, the world shrinks into enemies and obstacles. For a moment, nothing matters except defending, attacking, destroying. In modern life, anger is everywhere. Road rage on highways, shouting matches on social media, families torn apart by bitter words, politics poisoned by division. Many live with a constant low hum of irritation, ready to ignite at the smallest spark. Anger feels powerful, but beneath its fire lies hurt, fear, disappointment, shame. Anger is not the root. It is the flame that rises when the root is wounded. Consider Jason, a father who often yelled at his children. He told himself it was discipline, but inside he felt guilty. One evening, after shouting, he sat alone and asked himself why he was so angry. Slowly, he realized his anger came from exhaustion, from the pressure at work, from his own unhealed childhood wounds. His children were not the cause. They were simply near the fire when it flared. Jason's story is common. Anger hides pain. Buddhist wisdom compares anger to a hot coal. When we hold on to anger, we intend to throw it at someone else. But the longer we hold it, the more it burns our own hand. The harm we do to others may wound them, but the harm we do to ourselves is deeper, more lasting. Anger burns the vessel that contains it, yet anger is not evil. It is part of being human. The Buddha never said to eliminate anger completely. Instead, he taught us to transform it, to recognize it, understand it, and let it go before it destroys. Suppressing anger only makes it fester. Unleashing anger only makes it spread. Transformation lies in the middle path, seeing anger clearly, breathing with it, softening its fire into light. Imagine a pot of water placed on a fire. As the flames grow, the water boils, steam rises, pressure builds. If left unchecked, it spills over. But if we remove the fire, the water cools naturally. Anger is the same. When we keep feeding it with thoughts, how dare they? They always hurt me. I will never forgive. The flames grow. But if we pause, breathe, and stop feeding the fire, anger begins to cool. The energy that once burned can become the warmth of understanding. Mindfulness is the first step. When anger rises, we notice. This is anger. This is fire. Naming it creates space. Instead of being consumed, we become witnesses. The breath becomes our anchor. A deep breath is like a cool breeze across the flames. It does not extinguish anger instantly, but it keeps us from being swept away. Asterisk, the Buddha gave very practical advice. When anger rises, do not speak. Do not act immediately. Wait until the mind clears. Words spoken in anger are arrows that cannot be taken back. Actions taken in anger are scars that cannot be erased. By pausing, by breathing, we prevent harm. Compassion is the second step. When we look deeply, we see that anger always hides pain. A person who insults us is acting from their own wounds, their own ignorance, their own suffering. When we remember this, compassion softens our fury. We may still set boundaries, but we no longer carry hatred. Compassion is not weakness, it is strength. The strength to meet fire with water, not with more fire. Consider Maria, who carried resentment toward her sister for years. Their arguments had built walls of silence. Maria believed forgiveness meant excusing harm, so she held on to anger as protection. But over time, the anger weighed her down. Through meditation, she began to see her sister not only as an opponent, but as a human being shaped by her own struggles. Slowly, compassion grew. She forgave not to erase the past, but to free herself from the chains of resentment. The relationship healed, but even if it had not, Maria was lighter. This is the paradox of anger. We believe holding on to it punishes others, but it punishes us most. Forgiveness is not a gift to them. It is freedom for us. Still, transforming anger takes practice. Sometimes the fire feels overwhelming. In those moments, physical practices help. Walking meditation, mindful movement, even simply drinking water slowly can cool the body. Releasing tension in the body releases tension in the mind. Another powerful practice is loving kindness meditation. Repeating silently, "May I be happy. May you be happy. May we both be free," plant seeds of peace in the heart. At first, these words may feel false when directed towards someone we resent. But with repetition, the heart softens. The fire cools. What seemed impossible, wishing happiness for an enemy, becomes possible. Anger can also be a teacher. It reveals where we are still wounded, where we still cling. If anger rises when someone criticizes us, it may point to insecurity. If anger rises when we feel ignored, it may point to our longing for respect. Each spark of anger shows us where healing is needed. When we meet it with awareness, anger becomes a guide rather than a destroyer. As we walk this path, we discover that the energy of anger can be transformed into clarity and courage. Just as fire can destroy, but also give light, anger can fuel action when tempered by wisdom. Righteous anger at injustice can inspire change, but only if it is guided by compassion, not hatred. The Buddha taught that even when we fight against injustice, we must not let hatred take root. To fight hate with hate only multiplies darkness. To fight hate with compassion is to bring light. Pause here. Think of a time you felt anger burn in your chest. Remember the heat, the thoughts, the tension. Now breathe deeply. Imagine cooling water flowing through you, softening the fire. Whisper, "This is anger. I see you. I will not feed you. May I be free." Feel the space open in your chest. This is the beginning of transformation. In the next section, we will go deeper into how anger can be transformed into understanding, how resentment can give way to forgiveness, and how the fire that once harmed us can become light for ourselves and others. Anger is often described as a storm. When it rises, the skies of the mind darken, thunder rolls in our chest, lightning strikes through our words and actions. But like any storm, anger cannot last forever. It passes. The question is, will we let it pass harmlessly, or will we add destruction to its path? Many people believe expressing anger is the only way to release it. They shout, slam doors, send messages they later regret. Others believe suppressing anger is virtuous, so they swallow it down, smiling outwardly while their insides burn. Both approaches cause harm. Expressing without awareness injures others. Suppressing without understanding injures ourselves. The middle way invites us to transform anger, not suppression, not explosion, transformation. How do we transform? First, by pausing. A pause interrupts the automatic reaction. One breath, one moment of silence, one step back. In that pause, space appears, and with space comes choice. Instead of being carried away by the storm, we can anchor ourselves, waiting until clarity returns. Second, by listening deeply. Anger often says, "I have been hurt. I have not been understood." When we listen to our anger, we discover the pain beneath it. When we listen to the anger of others, we discover their suffering. Deep listening cools the fire. Understanding is water poured on flames. Consider Sarah, who carried resentment toward her father for decades. She believed he had never supported her, never understood her dreams. Their conversations were filled with tension. But through meditation, Sarah learned to listen, not only to him, but also to her own anger. She discovered her pain was not only about his actions, but also about her longing for approval. When she finally spoke with him calmly, she listened with new ears. She heard his own fear, his own regret. The anger softened. Forgiveness blossomed. Their relationship did not become perfect, but it became human, tender, real. Third, by practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean we excuse harm or allow abuse. It means we release the poison of resentment. We stop drinking the bitterness ourselves. We choose freedom over bondage. Forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves first. There is a story of a prisoner who carried hatred toward his captors long after being released. One day, a teacher asked him, "Why do you still let them imprison your heart?" The man realized that though his body was free, his anger kept him chained. By forgiving, he was not approving of their actions. He was freeing himself from their grip. This is the power of forgiveness brought forth by cultivating compassion. Compassion does not deny harm. It does not excuse cruelty, but it sees clearly that those who harm are themselves caught in ignorance, fear, and pain. To respond with hatred only deepens suffering. To respond with compassion breaks the cycle. Compassion is the strongest force against anger, not because it destroys it, but because it transforms it. Imagine the fire of anger as energy. If left unchecked, it burns the house down. But if channeled, it can warm, illuminate, inspire. This is how compassion transforms anger. The energy that once destroyed becomes fuel for understanding, for action, for healing. This transformation is not instant. It takes practice. Some days the fire will still flare. Some words will still sting. But with each moment of mindfulness, each breath of compassion, we grow stronger. We learn to recognize anger sooner, to cool it faster, to harm less. Over time, we discover that anger is not an enemy, but a teacher pointing us to where we need healing, guiding us toward deeper understanding. Pause again. Think of someone you resent. Feel the fire in your body. Now imagine their suffering, their fears, their wounds, their ignorance. Whisper silently, "May you find peace. May I be free from anger." Notice how the fire softens, even slightly. This is the seed of transformation. As we close this chapter, we remember, anger is fire, but fire is not only destruction. Fire cooks our food, warms our homes, lights our path. When guided by wisdom and compassion, even anger can serve us. It can fuel justice without hatred, strength without cruelty, clarity without destruction. The task is not to eliminate anger, but to transform it into light, into warmth, into understanding. Now, we turn to the final doorway. Throughout this journey, we have faced stress, money, relationships, anxiety, karma, balance, grief, loneliness, and anger. Each has shown us suffering, and each has shown us a path to freedom. The last step is to gather these threads into a vision of awakening. How Buddhist wisdom leads us out of the endless cycle of suffering into peace, compassion, and liberation. The final chapter will invite us to see that freedom is not far away. It is here, in this moment, waiting for us to open our eyes. Throughout this journey, we have walked through many forms of suffering: stress and exhaustion, struggles with money, the pain of relationships and attachment, the restless mind of anxiety, the law of karma and cause and effect, the discipline of balance, the heartbreak of grief, the ache of loneliness, the fire of anger. Each chapter has revealed a wound of modern life, and each has offered a doorway through Buddhist wisdom. Now we come to the final step: awakening. Awakening is not a mystical escape. It is not leaving this world behind. It is not becoming someone else. Awakening is seeing clearly. It is realizing that suffering arises when we cling, when we resist, when we forget impermanence and interconnection. It is discovering freedom not in another world, but here and now, in this very life. The Buddha compared awakening to waking from a dream. In the dream, we run endlessly, chased by fears, clinging to illusions. We believe the dream is real, but when we wake, we see clearly. The fears vanish, the illusions dissolve. The world remains, but we see it with new eyes. Awakening is this shift from illusion to clarity, from clinging to freedom, from ignorance to wisdom. Imagine standing by a river on a foggy morning. The fog is thick, obscuring the water. We think the world ends in mist, but slowly the sun rises. The fog thins. The river is revealed, flowing freely, vast and clear. The river was always there. We simply could not see it. Awakening is the lifting of fog. Life does not change, but our vision does. What? Then does it mean to live awake? It means we meet each moment with presence. We see thoughts as thoughts, not as absolute truths. We see emotions as waves, not as permanent prisons. We see people as fellow beings, not as enemies or possessions. We see ourselves not as fixed, isolated selves, but as processes connected to all of life. This vision transforms suffering into understanding, and understanding into compassion. Take the story of Daniel, who once lived in constant fear of failure. His anxiety drove him to overwork. His anger pushed away friends. His loneliness consumed him. But through practice, he began to see the patterns of his mind. He noticed how fear was just thought, how anger was just pain in disguise, how loneliness was softened by compassion. Slowly, the fog lifted. Daniel still faced challenges, but he no longer drowned in them. He discovered a freedom within, a freedom no circumstance could take away. This is awakening, not perfection, but clarity. Awakening also means living with compassion. When we see that all beings suffer as we do, the heart naturally softens. We no longer live only for ourselves. We begin to ask, how can I reduce suffering? How can I bring peace? Compassion becomes our guide, turning everyday actions into seeds of healing. A kind word, a patient silence, a gentle smile all become acts of awakening. The path to awakening is not a single leap, but a steady walk. The Buddha described it as the Noble Eightfold Path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These are not commandments, but practices, ways of living that tune the heart toward freedom. Each step supports the others. Each step brings us closer to clarity. Right view is seeing reality as it is impermanent, interconnected, free of a permanent self. Right intention is living with kindness and letting go. Right speech is speaking truthfully and gently. Right action is living ethically, avoiding harm. Right livelihood is choosing work that supports life rather than destroying it. Right effort is cultivating wholesome states of mind. Right mindfulness is awareness in each moment. Right concentration is the stillness of a focused mind. Together, these steps form a path not only for monks, but for all people in any life. Awakening is not distant. It is not reserved for saints. It is available here, now, in small moments. When we pause before reacting in anger, that is awakening. When we notice our breath instead of drowning in fear, that is awakening. When we forgive instead of clinging to resentment, that is awakening. These moments of clarity add up, step by step, until the path itself becomes our home. Pause now. Breathe deeply. Notice the sensation of air entering and leaving your body. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. In this simple act of awareness, you are tasting awakening. Nothing dramatic, nothing mystical, just presence. And in presence, freedom is born. In the next section, we will weave these teachings together, seeing how awakening transforms not only our personal suffering, but the world we share. For the awakened heart is not only free, it is generous, compassionate, radiant. The awakened life is not withdrawal from the world, but deeper participation in it, with wisdom, with love, with freedom. To live awake is to live with eyes open. We no longer sleepwalk through life, chasing illusions, running from fears, clinging to what must change. Instead, we move with awareness, with compassion, with trust in the unfolding of life. This does not mean challenges vanish. Death still comes. Loss still hurts. Anger still flares. But awakening changes how we meet them. We no longer drown in the river, we learn to flow with it. One of the most profound shifts of awakening is freedom from fear. Fear thrives on the illusion of permanence. We cling to our youth, our possessions, our relationships, as if they will last forever. Fear whispers, "What if they are taken away?" But when we awaken to impermanence, fear loosens. We see that change is natural, that endings are part of beginnings, that nothing is truly lost, only transformed. There is a story of a monk who carried a delicate porcelain cup. He loved it deeply, using it every day. One day, another monk asked him, "Aren't you afraid it will break?" The monk smiled and said, "To me, the cup is already broken. Because I know this, I enjoy it fully while it is here. When it breaks, I will not suffer." This is awakening, not detachment, but deeper presence. Because he accepted impermanence, he could love more freely. Awakening also frees us from the prison of self. We spend so much energy defending me, protecting mine, comparing ourselves to others. But the self we guard is not fixed. It is a flow, a collection of body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, consciousness. Like a flame, it exists only in constant change. To awaken is to see that we are not solid islands, but waves in the ocean of life. This vision does not erase individuality, but it dissolves the illusion of separation. We see ourselves in others, and others in ourselves. Compassion becomes natural, because harming another is harming ourselves. Imagine walking through a forest. You see countless trees, each unique, each separate. But beneath the soil, their roots intertwine, sharing nutrients, communicating, sustaining each other. Human beings are the same. On the surface, we appear separate, but beneath, we are connected in breath, in need, in suffering, in love. Awakening reveals these hidden roots, and once seen, they cannot be unseen. This awakening also transforms how we act in the world. No longer driven by greed, anger, or delusion, we act from clarity and compassion. Work becomes service. Relationships become spaces of growth. Even small actions, a smile, a kind word, a moment of patience become expressions of awakening. Take Maya, a nurse who once felt overwhelmed by suffering. Every day she faced illness, pain, loss. She carried the weight home, exhausted and bitter. But through meditation, she began to see differently. Each patient was not just a body, but a fellow being, part of the same web of life. Their suffering was not a burden to escape, but a call to compassion. Maya's work did not become easier, but it became meaningful. She no longer felt crushed, she felt connected. Her awakening turned exhaustion into service, bitterness into love. This is the fruit of awakening. Not escape, but transformation. We do not leave the world. We engage it more deeply. We do not become detached. We become more loving. We do not rise above humanity. We embrace it fully. As we near the end of this journey, remember that awakening is not distant. It is not reserved for monks in temples or sages in caves. It is available in the breath you take now, in the choice you make now, in the love you give now. Every moment is an opportunity to wake up. Pause here. Place a hand on your heart. Breathe deeply. Whisper, "May I be awake. May I live with compassion. May I be free." Feel the stillness that follows. This is the taste of freedom. Simple, present, real. And now, we step into the final chapter, the conclusion of this journey. We will gather the threads of stress, money, relationships, anxiety, karma, balance, grief, loneliness, anger, and awakening. We will see the whole tapestry, the path that leads from suffering to freedom. And we will close with hope that each listener, no matter their pain, carries within them the seed of awakening, ready to bloom into peace.